everyone, Jeff Abramo with the AARP Fraud Watch Network, joining you for another Fraud Watch Network Helpline update. And I'm joined by Mark Frederhoff from the Helpline. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Jeff. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Wanted to give a special shout out to, so we're broadcasting live on the AARP Fraud Watch Network Facebook page. We're also simulcasting to the pages in the states of Indiana, Tennessee, Wyoming, Nebraska, and Idaho and Utah. And this is the first time ever on the Idaho and Utah pages. So I wanted to give a special shout out and welcome to those states. We appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about what we're learning in real time, what we're hearing about in real time. And I'll tell you, speaking of real time, one thing, Mark, I don't know if you've heard anything about this, but that I have been bombarded with this week. 3 separate people on Facebook, I guess their accounts were compromised, and they sent me a link that said, hey, is this you in this video? Now, obviously, I didn't click the link because I know that this is not legitimate, but what's going on? What is this? Can you tell people? Are you hearing anything about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say that these scams that are being perpetrated on social media sites like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, they're very prevalent right now, and you just have to be very careful about the people you're connecting with. And I think that it's just really important that, use the general rule of thumb that if you know someone in person, that it's okay to connect with them in a virtual environment like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. But if you don't know them personally, it's probably not a good idea to strike up a conversation with someone, because there's a lot of people out there that are either A, compromising accounts of people, or B, mimicking accounts of people too, to try and gain their trust that way.
Well, what's interesting is that each of these messages came from people who I knew. They were actual friends. So in each of these cases, I reached out to the person offline. Fortunately, I had another way to contact them, and I said, hey, and I'll throw his name out there. Hey, Brian, we haven't even talked in a while, but I'm assuming this isn't you. And he said, no. It turns out he thinks his account had been compromised. He went in and changed all of his login info. But yeah, even if it's coming from somebody you know, don't click it. I mean, it's a common scam right now. Shirley in the chat room right now said she's received a few of these as well, and fortunately did not open it up. So.
Most definitely, and the number one scam that's being perpetrated that way is called a government grant scam, essentially. And what the scammers are doing is mimicking the account of someone who likely doesn't have their privacy settings locked down, and then befriending all of their friends. And so if you ever receive a friend request from someone who you're already friends with, be skeptical on Facebook, because it probably means that someone has gone to their account, mimicked the images and mimicked their name, and set up an account that looks exactly like theirs. So be very cautious of those. And if you see, any type of contact from someone you're already friends with, you're likely to get one of these emails or messages that Jeff has been getting.
Yeah.
So be very careful.
Wild Bill Cox says, I get it's you video links all the time through friends accounts that have been hacked. Yeah, so apparently this is a significant thing going on. I think it's always been around, but maybe it's peaking right now.
Yeah, I just think it's more right now. I think that scammers are using the phone a little bit less and social media a little bit more. So, when you're on social media sites like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and everything else, just be extra cautious.
Speaking of being cautious now, we just passed Valentine's Day, but I'm guessing that doesn't mean the romance scams just magically disappear, as does the chocolate in that heart that we all seem to have eaten by now. What are you hearing on that front?
It doesn't, and one of the top calls that are coming to the helpline today actually is romance scams, and so it's really important that people know that even if they're not looking for a love interest, there are romance scammers out there trying to get a hold of people, and they're doing that also on social media. So again, those unsolicited contacts from people who you don't know, even if it looks like a really promising, someone who you'd like to meet, there's a good chance the picture's fake, and there's a good chance they're going to ask for money down the line. So be really, really cautious of that. These scams are being perpetrated on known dating websites as well. But at the same time, the scammers are not just looking for people who are, on those dating websites. They're also looking for people who are just on social media. So be extra careful, again, with any unsolicited contacts.
Good advice. And folks, at the bottom of the screen right now, there's a scroll going across, and we have in our Fraud Resource Center, we have a page dedicated to romance scams. Just some tips, some red flags to look out for, some steps to take if you think you may have been exposed to or fallen victim to a scam. So it's aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork. Go ahead and visit there. You can also sign up for our Watchdog alerts there as well.
Yeah, and they really are one of the most difficult scams that we deal with as part of the helpline. Most of the people who calling, probably 2/3 of the romance scam calls that we get on the helpline are either from a friend or family member who has someone in their life who is being victimized by one of these online romance scams. So it's really sometimes hard to persuade that person that they might be being victimized by a scammer. And so it's really hard, difficult situations to deal with, but you can call our helpline and we can help work through some different scenarios of how to help that person.
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of times people in the relationships, it's the people around them that are the most able to sort of get to them and say, hey, this is something you need to be aware of. And as they indicated, we'll show the helpline phone number momentarily. Reach out to the helpline if you or someone that you care about is potentially involved in a scam. And I think that the helpline folks, they can offer some good advice as to some steps you might be able to take.
Most definitely. We have a great crew of volunteers who care about helping people and want to listen and help, put you in the right direction away from victimization.
Great. Now, I'd be remiss if I went more than 8 full minutes in this call before I turn to the elephant in our lives right now, and that's COVID and COVID scams and scams related to the COVID vaccine distribution. What are you hearing on that front? Is there anything new and emerging that people should be aware of, whether it's about COVID generally or the vaccine?
Yeah, so we're still not seeing a lot of scams directly related to the vaccine, which is a good thing. I think there's still plenty of opportunity for those types of scams to arise. And so it's something to be on the lookout for. Most of the calls that we're receiving on the helpline are involving miscommunication about how that person is going to be contacted by whoever the person is, where they sign up to get their vaccine. So, understand what kind of communication you're going to receive from that healthcare provider, whether it be a text or an email or a phone call, so you know what to expect. And so that can kind of debunk whether it is an actual offer for a vaccine or not. So you shouldn't be having to give out your social security number when you're getting a vaccine. And most times there's not going to be any payment involved. There's occasionally like a small admin fee, but generally speaking, most of the vaccines that we've heard about so far have been free. So in terms of the direct vaccine types of scams, not too many. But lots of just scams related to COVID, and I'll say that and it's mostly a result of people who are just home and shopping online. Those Amazon scams, Amazon's not going to call you, so if you get a call from Amazon saying your account's compromised. Also, puppy scams have just been rampant over the last 6 months. Scammers really got on board, understanding the fact that people are looking for companionship. So those puppy scams have just exploded. So, I recommend not going online and doing your research before trying to shop for a puppy online.
Yeah, you make a good point. A lot of folks have asked me about how COVID scams have blown up, what types of scams around COVID have blown up, and I've echoed that sentiment. In a lot of cases, it's the existing scams, the things that we've already known about, we've already experienced that are just starting to ramp up again. I think a lot of the bad guys out there, they think that people are so distracted by everything going on that they may, for one reason or another, be more receptive to hearing these messages around these other kinds of scams. So, but I will say, going back to the actual point of COVID scams and vaccine scams, at the bottom of the screen right now, folks, there's an email address. We've put together a one-pager on COVID-19 scams and vaccine scams. Now, they're changing all the time, but there's some really important fundamental common principles that you need to know that are in that one-pager. So email us and we'll send you a copy of the PDF. And in that, there's also going to be information around what to do if you think you've been contacted, the information for the helpline, as well as a link to the Fraud Resource Center page on COVID scams, which is constantly being updated as new information comes available. So I'll leave that up there for a minute or two, but definitely reach out if you'd like that PDF.
Yeah, please do reach out to us if you have been, contacted by a vaccine scam or other type of COVID scam, because we really just want to be able to make sure people know these scams are out there. And just like Jeff said, they're constantly evolving, and I fully expect there to be, vaccine scams and other types of scams as the months go on here.
Mike Adams in the chat room raises a good point. Stimulus scams. I don't know. Have we seen anything lately on that? I know that probably crested in December.
Yeah, there's sometimes just confusion around stimulus, and people also are learning, when stimulus is coming out, that there might, and they didn't receive it, that there might have been an issue with their identity being compromised. So we have talked to a handful of people who have had issues with the stimulus, but a lot of it is based on misinformation or not understanding how the process works. Or also there is, we've talked to plenty of people too who have had issues with their ID being compromised in these situations, and they just realize it as a result of not getting their stimulus. So there are ways of checking that up through the IRS, and we're happy to direct people when they have an issue.
Excellent. One more I wanted to hit on before we run out of time here. I heard something just this morning about a scam. I think it's a phishing type scam involving people claiming to be from the local DMV, the State Department of Motor Vehicles. Give me some details about what that is.
Yeah, this just started in the last couple of weeks. We started getting some reports out of Maryland that people were getting text messages from their DMV saying they needed to update their information, and these did turn out to be not actual contacts from the DMV. They were actually fraudulent. And then just over the weekend, we started getting some reports from New York, exact same type of messages. Where people are getting text messages from the DMV in New York State saying that that they needed to update information, and so be very wary about these types of phishing. When we think about phishing, I think about it mostly via email, but more and more, since people are on their phone so much, it really is coming via text a lot too. So be really cautious of any of these kind of texts, and I would just say, don't believe these. It seems like it's just another new government imposter scam that's going on, and especially for folks where we've gotten reports in Maryland and New York, be extra on the alert for these types of scams.
Yeah, I wonder. I know that in many states, my state in particular, they're doing a lot more operations via text and email, and I'm wondering if that's something that the scammers are trying to jump on.
Yeah, I totally think so, and I think that there's a lot of state DMVs that are very far behind too in processing different types of requests for registrations and licenses and that type of a thing. And so, there's lots of different possibilities of how they might be contacting someone, and just knowing that, understanding. And if you have any questions, reach out directly to your local DMV and see if that is how they're actually contacting people.
I was gonna wrap, but one more thing. I noticed Shirley posted around the phishing calls around Social Security, and I think that we've said before that that's a constant. It's always there, right?
Yeah, it's the number one scam that we've been dealing with for the past year. And just understand, and this is what I really tried to drive home about this scam. First of all, Social Security is not going to call you. Second of all, this scam is going out to everyone. It's not just going out to people who are Social Security beneficiaries. So it's really important that you spread the word to friends, family of all ages, that this is a scam and Social Security is not going to call you over the phone. Hang up if you get that type of contact. And it's just, the people who are calling to report this scam to our helpline are constantly younger people in their 20s, 30s, who don't understand necessarily how Social Security works. And they are calling us because they've given personal information, such as their Social Security number, or they've given these people money, and they're trying to figure out if it's real or not, or trying to figure out how to solve the problem with regards to identity theft. So, it's really important to share this information with kids and grandkids to make sure that they aren't the next victims of this scam.
Thanks a lot, Mark. That's some great information, folks. Mark Federhoff from the AARP Fraudwatch Network Helpline. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, all.
Folks, we're going to sign off now. Really good information there. Call the Fraudwatch Network Helpline at 877-908-3360 to report a scam, or if you think you may have fallen victim to a scam. and then visit the link below to get more information or to sign up for our bi-weekly Fraud Watchdog alerts. Thank you much. Have a good day.